Do not sue him. He does not have any money.
Death Note is not only one of the most popular anime, but one of the most iconic and recognized pieces of pop culture, period. First beginning its run in Weekly Shonen Jump in December of 2003, and its television anime run in October of 2006, Death Note has consistently provided old and new fans with a captivating plot and a well-thought-out cast of characters, led by one of the most morally ambiguous duos put to paper. Death Note is known for its non-combat oriented encounters that can entertain and intrigue more than its combat-centered contemporaries, especially in its manga where high-stakes and heart-racing tense situations where everything is on the line are juxtaposed by complete and utter haunting silence. One of these encounters I feel doesn't get much attention within the fan base that I'd like to shed light on now takes place around episode 6 of the anime and chapter 10 of the original manga. Things are at a standstill. The task force hunting Kira lost many of its officers on the case due to fear of Kira or not being entirely comfortable with L's secluded secrecy while their faces and names are widely accessible. The idea of L meeting with the remaining 6 is being processed, while Light is thinking about his next move, as well as any potential loose ends after his dangerous killing of Ray Penber out in the open. He has to think long and hard before doing something next, especially something else just as risky. As you'll notice, this is a regular activity for Light. He'll often question himself and overthink his actions for the past few days. Before long, Light finds himself at the police station running errands for his mother in his sister's stead. At the police station, he sees an unsuspecting woman that he soon finds to be quite resourceful, making her way to the police station to tip them off about some information she may have about Kira. Light uses his connections to the police through his father to put her at ease after the front desk receptionist declined her request to speak with the task force. Ryuk even comments on this, stating that Light is being uncharacteristically friendly, but I have more to say on this later. As Light escorts her out of the building, she introduces herself as Shokomaki, and begins to reveal more and more of the theories she's crafted based on the admittedly little evidence she's gathered about Kira. Theories that she herself thinks are far-fetched assumptions, but for Light, these theories are too close to the truth for his own comfort, and it is here where his expression starts to become noticeably uncomfortable and vindictive. Shoko begins to confide in Light, telling him she believes someone she knows may have come into contact with Kira, someone who got mixed up in a bus jacking and is now dead. After putting the pieces together, Light realizes that this was a loose end, and this woman was the fiancée of Ray Penber. Despite what his inner monologuing about his own brilliance would lead you to believe, Light will often not formulate his plans completely thoroughly, and this is a perfect example of such. Yes, he may have gotten Ray Penber and the FBI agents, but did anyone see him stalking Ray? Did he leave any fingerprints or even a hair follicle anywhere on Ray's body? Or most importantly, were those even all the FBI agents? These potential scenarios start to creep their way into his mind, but he quickly rejects them without a second thought, leading to the kind of situations he finds himself in now. After this discovery, Light is so taken aback he stands completely still in shock, which Shoko herself comments on. The farther they stroll, the more and more apparent it becomes that Light is losing his temper, even at one point referring to himself in the third person. Light decides he's had enough and he's going to write her name in the notebook, but is taken aback by Ryu's incessant laughter. As the laughter continues, Light starts to catch on that something isn't right, and it isn't before long that he realizes this woman has given him a fake name. After this revelation, he starts to panic to where he genuinely begins to consider using force as an option to find her real name. Though we are given plenty of moments where Light is unsure of his next move, we never really get to see him at rock bottom like in this specific scenario. He cannot let this woman talk to anyone related to the task force under any circumstances or he will be caught. He himself states this, and it is in this moment where all of his violent and manipulative tendencies emerge, where his pre-planning and even his own raw intelligence fails him, that he then begins to show his true face. His desperation brings out his worst traits, one of which being his complete and utter lack of empathy for innocent people like this woman trying to avenge her own fiancé that Light took advantage of in his final moments, the very same people he claimed to be protecting when first meeting Ryuk. A Ryuk who now stands over him laughing with a permanent smile stretched across his face. Throughout the manga and the anime, Ryuk will always tower and stand over Light, a shadow of pure darkness and mental anguish looming over him, as a constant reminder that he'll never be able to escape the gods of death that gave him his very power. Ryuk taunts Light. Knowing that their minds are on the same page, he reminds him of the Shinigami ideal that will show him anyone's name in exchange for half of his own lifespan. This is obviously something Light would never want to consider, and his utterly emotionless expression, complete with his dead-looking eyes, is incredibly unsettling when juxtaposed with Ryuk's haunting smile, trying to offer, bargain, and goad Light into giving his life to him. Light realizes his time is running short, and we're taken back to the task force where L suggests that someone return to the NPA headquarters. Soichiro decides to send Aizawa, ironic considering Aizawa's stance on Light as the series progresses. Light decides to pass a speech check and lie to this woman, claiming that no one is ever at the NPA building in order to keep its investigators' names and faces secret to Kira, so she'll never be able to tell anyone anything anyway at any time. At first she buys it, but as her face turns to a solemn glare, she asks Light why he knows so much about the case and its investigators, and in a final, unsafe, and risky attempt to get this woman's name, he lies to her again, this time claiming to be a member of the task force. Ironic again considering later events of the series, but this is still a big thing to lie about, especially considering if she decides to return to the NPA headquarters, like she does in the anime, it's all over. But after practically begging her, and telling her that she can join the task force herself, she unfortunately hands Light her identification. And in a sequence beautifully done in the anime, Light writes Naomi Misora, her true name, down in his notebook, as she inquires about how often he's checking his watch, to which he replies by revealing himself to her out in the open public because he knows she soon won't be able to do a thing about it. Naomi's face soon develops from an incredibly concerned and deeply horrified expression to a dry, lifeless, dead glare, realizing that despite her efforts, her fate has been sealed, while Light's cold, unforgiving, and merciless stare sticks to her eyes as the last thing she sees before she wanders off to her death. This was an innocent woman trying to seek justice and avenge her fiancé through the available legal avenues. These are the people that Light is willing to torment and step on his way to becoming the god of the new world as he so desires. It's moments and situations like these that call Death Note's sense of justice into question. It is undeniably true that what Light is doing is helping to decrease crime across the world, yes. But can it really be defined as justice if Light is destroying the lives of innocent, law-abiding people that he swore to protect? All in the name of his own selfish victories. But to think that this was one of those victories would be a grave misunderstanding. It's directly after this that L decides to further pursue the individuals that were being investigated by Ray Pinber. He knew Naomi Misora from a previous case and decided that something was fishy upon hearing news of her death. This leads to the potato chip scenario that then leads to L deciding to confront Light in public, which was possibly the most nervous Light has ever been in the entire series. After what happened here, Light just simply cannot afford to do something this public again without extensive pre-planning. It is also very apparent to anyone who reads or watches Death Note that Light takes a lot of pleasure in the murder he commits, and throughout the entire series, this has to be one of, if not the most blatant example of Light's disregard for human life. Naomi Misora, Kiyomi Takeda, Ray Pinber, Misa, and the members of the task force are all seen as nothing more than tools to be used or minor obstacles in his quest of playing God. I'd even argue the only reason he shows any sort of emotion during his father's death was simply because he didn't write Mello's name in the notebook, and nothing more. It is without a shadow of a doubt that the Death Note and its influence made Light a worse person. It's easy to see this as the series progresses, and as Light starts to lose more and more of himself, and feel less and less of basic human emotions. Even more so when he loses his memory and fully turns into the person he pretends to be around the task force and other people. The mask Light wears consists of the nice, kind-hearted, and understanding young man he was before he obtained the note, and to the viewer, and by extension Ryuk being the only ones who know his true face, it is this in contrast to the Light who is a ruthless, sadistic, and merciless executioner when dealing with those he sees as evil, or those that slight him in any way, that make for an entertaining deconstruction of moral ambiguity and morally great characters. But it is a combination of this, his own hubris, and the underestimation of Nier that leads to his downfall in the end.
そうだ。僕がキラだ。
Leave me alone.
Give me rent.
You'll get your rent when you fix this damn door!
Huh? Oh, right. Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
This is something else.